Hello, this is Dr. Gil Wilshire at Missouri Fertility. Welcome to our 6th video in our subject of nutrition. Today I'd like to talk about where's the future of this subject going, and I've had some thoughts about how to think about possible advances in the future. What prompted me to do this video today is that my wife and I were in bed this morning drinking coffee, watching some TV, and a commercial came on. The commercial was for a medication that reduces platelet clotting and supposedly reduces the risks of future heart attacks. Showed this young guy, just had a heart attack, was taking this medicine, and then it showed him in his kitchen juicing a banana. Oh my God, 2 mistakes in one, and this was being proffered as being healthy. I didn't know whether to cry or shoot the TV. So with that, putting a fire to my feet, I wanted to talk about some important issues that I thought would be helpful to you too. Now, where are we going? Well, it looks like nutrition is not just about macronutrients and specific micronutrients like vitamins. It looks like there may be some very important issues, such as, is your food alive? Is it fermented? Does it still have microorganisms in it? Currently, probiotics are bacteria that don't quite mesh with your system and don't live in your system as long as the natural bacteria do. I see advances there coming. Is it possible that we are too clean, that we're washing our food too much? Do we actually need more bacteria and fungi and whatnot in our food to actually keep our gut functioning normally? Interesting concept. Does that have anything to do with allergies and whatnot? Don't know. There's also some thought leaders that I'd like to give recognition to. One of them is William Davis. He's known for his series called Wheat Belly. He's bringing up the idea that not only does wheat have carbohydrates and calories, but it may have addictive properties. Very interesting. In addition to anti-nutrient properties, does it have pro-inflammatory properties? So are there things about particular foods that go above and beyond just their basic nutrients and energy reserves? Second person I'd like to acknowledge is a doctor named Peter Attia. Peter has been drawing attention to the possible role of intermittent fasting. What is the best time to eat? How many times should we eat? When is it a good idea? Etc., etc. Now, as you can imagine, researching this field is very, very difficult because we're all different, and how do you have proper controls and whatnot? We hear all the time you should have 3 meals, 5 meals. Breakfast is the most important meal. None of this has any real good scientific basis. I'm aware of some data that suggests if you are a bodybuilder or a very hardworking athlete, that perhaps 5 or 6 meals or intakes of protein a day might be optimum. But apart from this, should you eat a few meals or just 1 meal, or fast most of the day or fast a few days? Not clear, but I'm glad to see attention being given to this subject, and I'd like to see more coming in the future. Another doctor I'd like to acknowledge is a guy named Jack Cruz down in New Orleans. Jack is really into vitamin D and sunlight. Turns out sunlight not only is the best way to make vitamin D, but sunlight also has a lot of other benefits. There are receptors in our eyes that affect our mood. Sunlight affects our circadian rhythms, and it turns out circadian rhythms have a lot to do with health, and may be much more important than people have thought in the past. Analogous to the cardiologist that suggested many years ago that we cut out saturated fat, and in fact this was a very bad idea. Analogous to this is probably the dermatologists that have suggested we slather on sunscreen and avoid sun exposure at all costs. This too is probably a major public health debacle, and in fact it may be harming millions and millions of people. So I'm glad to see attention being focused on sunlight, circadian rhythms, above and beyond just vitamin D, which taken orally may not be nearly as good as the vitamin D we make ourselves from sunlight. And another concept that I find fascinating is the idea of the actual atomic isotopes that are in our food. The reason I like to stay away from the concept of calories is that energy in our food is transmitted through various pathways and gradients, and in fact goes through little nanomachines. How we make ATP, one of our energy molecules, is in fact through a little whirling little rotor that goes 130 times a second. That's about 10,000 times a minute, and hence this is millions and millions of times every hour. These proton pumps depend on the atom or the nucleus of hydrogen, a single proton. Turns out when it's deuterium, or has a proton and a neutron, this molecule or this atom can gunk up the works of these ATP synthesizing machines. Just fascinating. Once we get down to the source of our energy production, we can understand the mechanism, and once we understand the mechanism, we can see that our foods are above and beyond just what might be measured in a calorimeter, for example. So it turns out when we get our food through animal sources and from sources higher up in the food chain, there's less deuterium, and in fact these molecules may work better for us than perhaps the identical molecule derived from a different source lower in the food chain. This is fascinating, and I look forward to more research coming in the future. So, these are just some thoughts for where nutrition may be going. Obviously, it's very exciting. Quality research needs to be done, however, before large generalized public policy recommendations are made. I hope this has been helpful to you. This is Dr. Wilshire at Missouri Fertility. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram.